Welcome back to School for Relationships and day 2 of our series on how to navigate the ways that healing yourself changes your relationships. We'll be building off of our theme from yesterday and talking about how embracing confusion is a sign that you are growing and opening yourself up to change. As you're opening yourself up to making more decisions that come with guilt and uncertainty, the good news here is that you can build up your tolerance to guilt and self-doubt just like you would with any other emotion. Just practice staying with this guilt and letting yourself feel this before acting on a sense of guilt, duty, or obligation. And a lot of this practice here of staying with guilt and self-doubt starts with the simple goal of just buying yourself more time before you're making a decision that's coming from that place of guilt. The longer that you can stay with your guilt before acting on it, the more clearly you can see where this guilt is coming from. You can ask yourself, does what I'm contemplating actually have the potential to hurt someone else? Or am I just afraid that honoring my needs hurts and takes away from other people? If you are expressing yourself honestly in a relationship for the first time, finding the answer to these questions may feel unclear at first because there's a chance that when you're first setting boundaries, that other people will be hurt and will take your boundaries personally. That being said, someone else taking your boundary personally is not the same thing as you hurting them. As long as you have set your boundary in a considerate way and treated the other person the way that you would want to be treated, it is not your responsibility if the other person is hurt or offended by or disagrees with your boundaries. It's not your responsibility to make them feel better, to make them understand, or to make them agree with why you're setting this boundary. That's out of your control and goes into infringing on their autonomy and the right that they have to their own feelings. This boundary that you're setting is about you honoring your needs and feelings. And just remember that the people who truly care for you and are putting in that effort to respect you and your needs will show this respect by keeping the conversation focused on what you've expressed rather than on their own emotional reaction. By hearing you out and then taking ownership of any needs coming up for them, this opens up a safe and respectful space where you and that other person can really dialogue and come up with creative solutions that meet everyone's needs. But when you're first opening up this more honest dialogue with other people about how you feel and what you need, you will most likely struggle with a lot of confusion and cognitive dissonance. Consciously, you may recognize that your needs and feelings are valid, and that expressing your needs will ultimately benefit your relationships. But instinctively and viscerally, you may still feel like being and expressing yourself is betraying the people you love or taking something away from them. If you consciously know you're doing the right thing, but are still struggling with a lot of that instinctive, unconscious guilt, another helpful question you can ask yourself is, would I judge someone that I care about for feeling and needing the same thing? As uncomfortable as staying in this place of confusion and cognitive dissonance may be, it is a huge sign of growth, and it means you're finally reactivating and going back into those old unconscious core beliefs, and you're testing these beliefs. Treat facing and testing the fear that you or your needs are selfish as an informal process of exposure therapy. Or if you're working on this with the support of a therapist, you might be treating this as exposure therapy with their help. And in exposure therapy, your fear becomes smaller over time by testing this fear and reality checking it. And what you're giving yourself in the process of healing from enmeshment is the reality check that expressing your needs also gives back to the people you love and fosters more mutually fulfilling relationships. If expressing your needs is jeopardizing one of your relationships, this is valuable information that you and your needs are being excluded from that relationship. Staying in a one-sided relationship doesn't serve you, and it doesn't help the other person. It's actually reinforcing their inconsiderate or domineering behavior in that relationship as acceptable. If someone is treating you in a way that you would not want them to treat anyone else, you can draw a line around their behavior being inappropriate by setting the boundary that you will not continue accepting this treatment. So this is how we're really beginning to see and test that even really hard and challenging boundaries are still giving back to that person you love. And it may not feel that way at first, but keep staying with that confusion and the uncertainty and the not knowing. Because when we accept what we don't know, we're opening ourselves up to learn new things and to grow in truly radical ways.